Quick prototyping with the Singleton pattern. Introduction to the Singleton pattern. In this video, we are going to take a first look at the Singleton design pattern. First, we are going to explore why you would want to use this pattern through an example. Then we'll discuss the key feature of Singleton objects, which is that there is only a single instance of a Singleton class throughout the lifetime of an application. Finally, we'll talk about how to decide if you need a Singleton at all. Let's start. Okay, let's quickly sum up what a Singleton is. Basically, if you have a class from which you can't create new instances outside of the class itself, you have a Singleton. Another condition is that from outside of the class, you will need to allow controlled access to a single instance of the class through a static getter method or by other means. These are the two requirements. Basically, you need to know how to create a Singleton class. However, these aren't the most important. Let's continue with those. The single most important thing you need to take into consideration when you deal with the Singleton pattern is this. Is it a requirement for your application or codebase to be able to access only a single instance of an object or not? Obviously, if not, then don't use the pattern at all. However, it is not easy to decide if you require this or will require it in the future. Let's see an example that will shed some light on this matter. There are some updates in the sample applications codebase. The main area of importance is that there is a new web interface available. Let's see this quickly. Start the application. The same functionality is now available in the browser while the application is running. Open your browser and go to localhost port 8080. The web interface is implemented in the web class. The web class is similar to the CLI class. When the class's run method is invoked, it creates a new instance of the warehouse class, then declares HTTP request handlers that are called when you click on certain links in the browser. The handler methods like handle products, use the warehouse instance to access what's stored in the warehouse. On a side note here, the web and CLI classes use the warehouse classes instance to access business logic and only implement functionality related to gathering user input and displaying data to users differently. This is an example of separation of concerns and decoupling business logic from presentation. Okay, now the problem here is that there are two instances of the warehouse class throughout the lifetime of the application. The CLI class creates one instance, and as we have seen, the same happened in the web class. This means that there will be two instances. Why is this a problem? If a user wants to create a new product in the system through the web interface, then this won't have any effect on the data accessed and modified through the console interface. The new product we created earlier is not here. This isn't something we would want. What we want is to access the same data through both interfaces. In short, we would like the CLI and web classes to access the same instance of the warehouse. To achieve this, there are several possible solutions. One of them is using a Singleton, but it's not the only one, as we will see. How to decide if you need singletons? In our case, let's imagine that we want to provide new interfaces for the warehouse class other than the command line and web interfaces, like a desktop interface, or different variations of the web interfaces with different levels of access. One web interface for admin users, one for read-only users with access to a limited set of operations. Whatever the case, for now, we would like every possible interface implementation to access and rely on the same warehouse instance throughout the application. To achieve this, we can use a singleton, which is the perfect choice. However, if there is a need to store and later access different sets of products and orders unrelated to each other, then singleton is not the best choice, since this will limit what other developers can build on top of such class, the warehouse class. For example, they won't be able to create an app where you can manage several warehouses at once. To decide when to use this pattern and apply it to a class, you will need to consider if there ever will be a need to create multiple instances of your class. Generally, data classes are never a good target to make a singleton out of, like order or customer. There will be a need to create lots of instances through the application's lifetime. Good candidates are classes that represent a shared resource in your system, like hardware that you will want to control through code, a printer for example, or conceptual entities which are available in limited numbers, like a database instance or, for example, the JVM itself in which your code runs. See Java's runtime class, which is a good example of a singleton in the JDK.